Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're talking about the feat Spell Sniper.
Yeah. This is Sharpshooter Light. This is fair Sharpshooter, and it's Sharpshooter for spellcasters. Like Sharpshooter's really cracked, and Spell Sniper's not really cracked. Spell Sniper's just really obnoxious. I'm not even that obnoxious. I'm gonna talk about why in a second. Now, how do you feel about Spell Sniper?
I like Sharpshooter, but
That's fair.
but yeah, it's cool. I mean, the only real difference is the range thing, right? I mean, well, aside from spells, instead of arrows and stuff.
Let's go through the 3 bullet points. This is what it does. When you cast a spell that requires you make an attack roll, the spell's range is doubled. Neat. There's less of those than you'd think. Your ranged spell attacks ignore 1/2 and 3/4 cover, which is bogus, but very good. And you learn a cantrip that requires an attack roll. You can choose a bard, cleric, druid, sorcerer, warlock, or wizard spell list. Your spellcasting modifier depends on it. This basically is the way they give bards and sorcerers Eldritch Blast if you don't want to take levels in warlock. That's what this reads as. Okay. Otherwise, you're probably taking Firebolt or that's basically it. You're not taking this on anyone else. I guess you could do some janky Thorn Whip shenanigans with this.
Really long whip.
Yeah, but it's still, I think it pulls a fixed distance, so it's not that great. But it's a 60-foot whip that pulls them 10 feet closer to you. And is that good? Not really.
Actually, the thing about Thorn Whip is you generally don't want to pull people closer to you. If they're far enough away, then maybe you might. I don't know.
Maybe, I guess. I don't know. It's like a setup thing. So if you got someone that sets up an area of death and you yoink into the area of death, you go. Then they take a damage when they enter it, and they take it at the start of their turn. And you're like, oh my god, I did so many things. It was pretty sweet. And that can happen. I don't think you take this as part of that build, but you could.
So to be clear, there's nothing in this about swapping out some of your attack for more damage then.
Correct. There's no text to empower your spell's damage in any way, shape, or form. Instead of what makes Sharpshooter really busted, you get a free cantrip, which is, not really an even trade-off, especially because this requires you already have a cantrip to cast it to get it in the first place, which means you probably already have the cantrip you want, which means you're probably it only lets you take cantrips that make attack rolls, so you're taking something that's probably worse than what you're doing anyway. And it just gives you this kind of weird little, I guess I'll take this free cantrip I'm not going to cast ever. Sure. Or again, you're taking Eldritch Blast on Sorcerer, or Eldritch Blast on Bard, or you take Ray of, or Firebolt on Artificer, I guess. I don't know why you would do that, but you could, because Artificers have weapon proficiencies, and weapon proficiencies are about as good as, actually a little bit better than ranged spell attack rolls, so.
Why is that?
That is because, okay, that's a great question, Bob. This is something that I think is undervalued in 5th edition on most people's character sheets. Minimum and maximum damage. So I think what is most important whenever you're deciding what you're doing with your character, that you figure out what your floor is at any given fight. If things go exactly as you'd like, how will your dice minimally affect the world? With damage dice that come from weapons, that minimum is a modifier +1. It's whatever the lowest die result is, plus normally your dexterity modifier, which means a short bow's minimum damage is always 4. You're never be doing less than 4 damage. That means if you hit something with a short bow, if it has 4 less HP, it's dead. If it has 3 less HP, it's dead. If it has 5 HP, it goes to 1. That's kind of a bummer, but most of the time it handles anything with 4 or less HP. This matters in chunks, especially whenever you're doing them over multiple instances. You can spend 2 rounds casting cantrips and do less damage than a single arrow can do just by variance alone. If you fire 2 firebolts off round after round and do 1 damage or 1 and 2 damage, you are doing less than the floor of a single short bow shot. That's really impactful. That is taking variance and making it less of a predominant issue for you. It means your average contribution in a fight is going to be much higher. This is specifically relevant to low tiers. As you get to the upper tiers and you start getting 3 dice and even 4 dice, this averages out much faster and starts looking much more similar to multi-attack. But in the lowest tier, whenever you're going 1d10 firebolts, ever rolling a 1, 2, or 3, you are worse off than doing literally any dexterity-based weapon or weapon that's adding a +3 mod, because that's the floor of them all. That's why I find them to be substantially better and more consistent. You never have rounds where it's well, I didn't even miss and I still had no impact because I did 2 damage. You're at least bumping that floor up substantially by, again, over double. And that's really meaningful when it comes to these kinds of features.
All right. I'm looking over the bullet points again. The spell's range just doubled. That's cool.
Sure.
half cover, 3/4 cover. This now you were saying the cantrip that you get, you probably don't even want, you don't even need. Now that I can't help but think that's not true if you are planning out your character at all.
So here's the reason I don't think it matters. If you're planning out your character at all, you already picked that, right? You're already a full caster that wants this, right?
But no, because you're picking something else with the intention of when I get spell sniper, then I'll choose this one. You want to make the most out of your free cantrip.
That means you're not doing the thing that you want your build to be doing up until 4th level, and I don't love that. Like, imagine being like, I'm gonna take Spell Sniper, so I'm not gonna take Eldritch Blast, and I'm gonna have to take not Agonizing Blast. I'm gonna have to need not the build-ins if I want to play the Eldritch Blast Warlock. And you're like, wait a second, that doesn't make any sense.
Okay,
you're
that's a fair point.
Yeah, like you want to be doing what your build's supposed to be doing. You don't want to say, well, I'm gonna get a little bit of extra value by not taking a damaging cantrip here and instead taking an extra utility cantrip, which is, a choice.
You don't happen to know, like, because your cantrips are limited. You don't happen to know offhand how many cantrips we're talking about that qualify for this, do you?
Not many, believe it or not. The cantrips have the most of them, so this is gonna be your it's not Acid Splash, but I believe it's not Poison Spray. So it's Firebolt, Ray of Frost. Those two qualify. Those are the ones I see cast the most.
Ray of Frost, that'd be a good one because I mean.
Doubling the range of Ray of Frost does make it a lot better.
Yes, that's all right.
Doubling
that's
the range of Ray of Frost does make it a lot better. Yes.
I don't want to get into this argument again, but yeah, doubling the range. Okay.
I will always get into this argument, but you're absolutely right. The spell becomes more valuable. If you want to have a Ray of Frost character, Spell Sniper probably goes on that sheet. There's just like Scorching Ray is kind of the best spell attack roll spell. And like even things like Disintegrate and Finger of Death, they just all do saving throws, right? Spells stop almost immediately, even whenever they're single target based, making attack rolls the moment you pass 3rd level. Like the vast majority of the damaging things that you can do in this game require you to have an enemy make a saving throw. And if you're making a saving throw, this spell has no text. This spell doesn't do anything. This spell doesn't have no text. You still get the no, never mind. It has no text because it doesn't double spells ranges. I lied. So there's like, if you want to be using it with upper level features, you can't, which means you have to care about doing this with lower level features. The vast majority of those, because like I don't see a lot of people building around Scorching Ray. It doesn't seem like a particularly hype thing that a lot of people are really excited for. So instead, you get people that are like, okay, I will have my Firebolts do 1 billion damage, I guess, and they won't really ever do 1 billion damage. This really only goes on Eldritch Blasters, but like it just doesn't affect so many spells that it makes it kind of bad. Like it's kind of like a trap almost, where it's like I want to play the battery artillery mage from the corner, firing off disintegrates, firing off fireballs from 4 miles away, and it doesn't do that. It lets your cantrip that you've been using since 1st level, that already probably outranges most things on the vast majority of battle maps, now have double the range. And now you're like, okay, well, I guess now we're just trying to create a cheesing situation where it's like, okay, I'll just fire off 2d10 firebolts and 3d10 firebolts. Like if anything walks within 300 feet of me and they don't get cover or any of that nonsense, and I'm always hitting those kinds of things. And then you're just doing Sharpshooter, but worse. And like Sharpshooter's a 600-foot range, and doubling the range of a firebolt only 240. Doubling the range of if you do this with Eldritch Blast, with Eldritch Spear, you're looking at a range of 600. So now we're in the same territory, and then you're like very slowly building into your own, I built Sharpshooter on my Warlock. Sure, go for it. But like,
I don't think you need Eldritch Blast. I don't think you need Eldritch Spear and Spell Sniper. That's there's just not going to be enough instances where you're confronting enemies that far away, 600 feet away.
I think at fair tables, you're right. I think the vast majority of fair tables that are playing like consistent battle maps, they don't have someone whose entire purpose is if something moves within 600 feet of me that I'm aware of, it dies, which is what that build is trying to accomplish. And in some environments, it can accomplish that. But I think for the most part, you're right.
Actually, maybe that's a way to get around that Sharpshooter problem. Yeah.
Everything's Eldritch Spearing from 3 miles away.
Sharpshooter, yeah.
It's just everyone's a sharpshooter, and we're just playing an entirely different game now. This is closer to some kind of tactical top-down strategy board game than it is an RPG. Sure.
But of the two, which one do you think is best or preferred?
Of the two feats?
Yeah, this feat and what's it called? It's the spear.
Eldritch Spear?
Yeah.
Eldritch Spear doesn't cost you a feat, so it's probably better. Feats are expensive. You get only like 3 of them for the whole game. And Invocation, you get like 8 or 9 of. So those are you have more of them, they're worth less, right? And I mean, I don't know how much you really. I mean, the 3/4 cover stuff is nice. It makes your DM go, ugh, I can't ever. You just always okay, fine. You always have your max mods against all of these things, unless I'm fully hiding from you, which is, yeah. But like, there will be some meaningful text there. I don't think it's going to be. I think the vast majority of casual tables where cover doesn't like, if you don't know the modifiers that 3/4 and half covers give, you probably don't need to care about this text at all. And I think that's the majority of people playing Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. And that's why the invocation is just going to be better for most characters. If you're doing that specific thing, if you're in like on a Firebolt build for some reason or a Frostbolt build, this is the only way you have to really empower it that way. So sure. I don't know if you need 240 feet. I don't think you do. 120 foot on Firebolt's a lot, or on Ray Frost is a lot better. So that's like, okay, my Frostbolt is now a Ray Frost. But then you like, I'd even say just Sorcerer get access to Quicken Spell, and then you take the Sorcerer feat that gives you meta magic, and then you can get, or not Quicken Spell, Extend Spell. And then whenever you need it, you can Extend Spell it. And that seems better than this because that's giving you other meta magic options. But
if you have all this going on, would that extend it to like 1,200 feet?
Yes.
That's like a different town.
That's like 6 city blocks. It's like from 8th Avenue, all the way down to 2nd Avenue that you're just like, die. Sure. I have pulled up D&D Beyond because I'm curious. D&D Beyond has an attack roll filter. And if you sort by like the actual spells that have attack rolls, Crown of Stars is the highest spell level in the game that has an attack roll on it, and it's a 7th level spell.
That's pretty high.
And it's also a really good one. Crown of Stars is I don't know how much you need it. And it also, like, it doesn't inherently work with all of Spell Sniper because you're not... When you cast a spell that requires you make an attack roll, you aren't casting Crown of Stars requiring you make an attack roll. You're casting Crown of Stars to get a bunch of things. So your ranged spell attacks ignoring 3 half and 3/4 cover will work. It will not increase the range of the motes from the Crown of Stars. That's an unintuitive interaction, but I thought should be mentioned. Again, you look skeptical.
I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. That wasn't skeptical. That was, just thinking.
That's fair. It puts you in this kind of like weird position. Like Storm Sphere is also the same thing, where you create a sphere that you can make bonus action attacks with, but that doesn't quantify to increase the range of those bonus action attacks because you aren't casting a spell making an attack roll. You're casting a spell that created a Storm Sphere and then using a bonus action to make attack rolls with the Storm Sphere. So it doesn't get the range bonus, which is dumb.
I mean, are you 100% definitively sure about that?
Yes.
Okay.
I am.
Now that I have thought about it, I'm feeling skeptical.
Okay. So if you consider it, right, the text is, when you cast a spell that requires you to make an attack roll, the spell's range is doubled. You are not required to make an attack roll whenever you cast the Crown of Stars. You are not required to make an attack roll whenever you cast a Storm Sphere. It does not qualify for that. And thus, it doesn't get the attack's range bonus increase, right? Whenever you, for example, in Storm Sphere's case, right, it lets you use your bonus action to make 46 lightning damage attacks within 60 feet of the sphere. This doesn't extend that range of the 60 feet of the sphere to 120 feet of the sphere. It doesn't make the range from the sphere longer. It doesn't quantify to do that at all. It just is something that is also within the spell's text, but it isn't part of casting it. You using the spell once it's out isn't casting it anymore. It can't be counterspelled. It can't have any of those effects.
All right. That's some lawyering you're doing there, and I can see your argument.
Listen, I talk rules as written. I think at many tables, GMs are gonna be like, absolutely, that can work with that. That doesn't make any sense as why it wouldn't. Especially like with, I think Crown of Stars specifically is the egregious one, because all it is attack rolls. All it is you cast it and they're firing from you, and it makes sense to me that would work if I had a player at my table that wanted to do that. Spell Sniper's not good enough for me to be like, oh no, the spell's too powerful. I can't allow that. You're gonna make everyone else feel like they're not doing shit. No, absolutely, you could double the range of the boats for the Crown of Stars if you're at my tables. I'm just saying rules as written can at the moment, which is dumb. But for the record, there are 3 spells, one of which is Wall of Light. I don't remember what that spell does, but apparently it has you making attack rolls with it. 3 spells over 2nd level that make attack rolls. Period. That's all of them. So every other spell from that is Scorching Ray, Ray of People, Melt, or an Acid Arrow. So there's 4 2nd level spells that make attack rolls. And then there's Witch Bolt. Nope. Ray of Sickness, Ice Knife, Guiding Bolt. Like, the remaining spells aren't necessarily winners, so I don't know. I don't see this as like something you really build around. Do you? Unless you're doing specifically the cantrip stuff. Is this something you're building around with like spell level spells?
I don't know. This my mind's still swimming with free cantrip. That means something to me.
For what it's worth, actually, again, since I have it pulled up, I can just tell you: Chill Touch, Eldritch Blast, Firebolt, Magic Stone, which doesn't qualify. I'm sorry. Chill Touch, Eldritch Blast, Firebolt, Ray of Frost. Those are all of the cantrips in the game that make attack rolls. So it's one of those 4. And if you're taking this, that means you already have at least one of those 4. So oof. Like
let me ask you this question before you start. All right, say I'm a wizard and I take this. Can I get Eldritch Blast with it?
Yes. But it uses your charisma modifier.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
You don't want to be Eldritch Blasting without like a +3 or +4 charisma modifier. You'd much rather just Firebolt, right?
Maybe. Oh yeah, because you can't get those invocations to power it up.
No. So like even on the sorcerer cheesy builds that are also in charisma, you still want your 2 levels in Warlock. You still want Agonizing Blast, right?
Yeah.
So like it doesn't really help you there.
Okay, I was just thinking about that. But still, there's I don't know. There's a lot to unpack. Those 4 cantrips you mentioned? There's
4 cantrips in the entire game. I worked with this.
Yeah, but I like it. Eldritch Blast, great. But yeah, like you said, you already have that. If you want it. Ray of Frost, that might be worth it for me.
Sure.
With double range.
I think that's probably the one you're most likely picking up here. I think you probably have Eldritch Blast or Firebolt, or Chill Touch, but I'll touch on it in a second.
Chill Touch, we haven't talked about Chill Touch, have we?
No, I don't think so. It's an iffy little spell, but it's good for a reason that isn't in the spell description.
Ooh. Well, we'll save that juicy tidbit for later.
Oh, but I was going to talk about the build right now. Okay,
anyway. All right, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay, so Cleric Death Domain specifically have a feature called Reaper. And it's the first level Cleric Death Domain feature. This is technically, this is from the Dungeon Master's Guide, and it's about as close to unofficial content as Wizards gets as far as they print it. Like, this is probably one step closer to real content than the Unearthed Arcana articles are, but it's not like as definitive as the later release books. It's nebulous, but it's still played by a lot of people and it's considered canon, so I'll talk about it here. So what Reaper does is it gives you a Necromancy cantrip of your choice from any spell list, which is always Chill Touch, because it's the only one that you care about. I guess you can take Toll the Dead, but like, Toll the Dead is boring. It's also D10 damage, that's probably better than this, but it doesn't qualify for Spell Sniper. And that matters because whenever you cast a Necromancy cantrip with Reaper that targets only one creature, you can target 2 creatures within 5 feet of each other instead. Which means on Spell Sniper builds, you're taking Chill Touch and doubling its effectiveness by hitting 2 things within 5 feet of each other for a D8 plus the scaling, each of them, and shutting off their things at a 240-foot range that ignores 3/4 cover. That's kind of neat. I don't know how good that build is. I haven't seen Reapers at the table been like utterly busted. I've seen them been fine for the first 3 levels of the game. I don't know if you dedicate an entire ass feat to that, but you could, and that's kind of neat.
I agree. And then you said Guiding Bolt as well?
Guiding Bolt's the first level spell that gets it, yeah.
Oh, all right, never mind. Anyways, yeah, there's more we could talk about, but I think we've covered this one pretty well.
That's fair.
You got a rating for this one?
I think you look
like you're gonna say something else. But...
I feel like this spell gives you the inclination that there's a lot of build around potential here. I feel like this spell says, oh, you're going to get cool spells that have ranged attack rolls from long distances and stuff. And then they just stopped making them. And then you get to the 3rd level and there's no more. And you're like, wait, there's no 3rd level ones that makes ranged attack rolls. Well, maybe hold on. I'm going to come to the 4th level spells. It's got to be at least one. None? Huh? Okay, well, look at the 5th level spells. Surely have a spell that makes a ranged attack roll. No, not a single one, huh? 5th? 6th? Hold on a second, where are all the ranged spell attack spells? They just don't exist. And for that reason, like, I can't give this more than a 2. This is a spell that, like, unless you are, like, I want to be the best Firebolter there ever was, this is one of the few ways you have to empower Firebolt. And it's not even that good of a way. It's just like, okay, yeah, you are ignoring 3/4 of cover the majority of the time. Sometimes you're hitting past 120 foot. That's fine. But for the most part, it's just like, nothing gets covered from you unless it's full cover. And that's not
Firebolt is like the one I'm least excited about.
The other ones do less damage. Ray of Frost is kind of nifty. I don't think any of these builds are like justifying your feat, especially because you're on like full casters, and you would much rather take Warcaster, you would much rather take Magic Initiate, you would much rather take a myriad of other just good feats, or just bump your charisma up, or just bump your intelligence up, right? I just don't see this having enough impact just by taking it. So I think it's a 2 for like the vast majority of cases. It'll be fine if you've got a spare feat lying around. Why not? I don't think this is one that's particularly impactful.
All right, well, I'm more excited about it than you are. I'll give it a 3, and yeah, I'm not gonna give it more than that until I hear from the commenters. Well, yeah, tell us how you like this feat, Spell Sniper. Anything else? No, I guess that's Spell Sniper.
Spell Sniper.
All right, well, thank you, Sam, and thank you everyone for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it, a gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.